Do you struggle with feeling guilty for prioritizing your own needs and desires? It's time to let go of the shame and embrace the power of self-love because it's truly, truly powerful. I created a free 5-day self-love challenge on Conscious Matters website, educational portal for all things wellness, mindset, and mindfulness. But I realized that I did a video about self-care, but I never did a video about self-love just yet. When I believe that self-love is actually the starting point of so many things, especially with personal growth, the basis, the foundation has to be self-love, among other things, but most importantly, self-love. So in this video, let's go over the process of nurturing and loving yourself unconditionally so you can be rooted into yourself and find inner peace and contentment. Welcome to Conscious Matters. I'm Melissa. On this channel, I talk about conscious living through empowerment and holistic wellness, especially mindfulness. First thing first, let's try to understand the concept of self-love, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions around self-love. What is it? Is it selfish? Is it egotistical? What is the purpose? To me, self-love is just like you love others, learning to love yourself entirely, fully, and embracing the good, the bad, and the in-between. To see yourself in your whole entirety, to fully know yourself, and loving yourself enough to be able to self-forgive, to not take criticism or projections of others as your own. To me, self-love is loving yourself just like a parent would love their child. It's about loving yourself unconditionally so you are rooted within yourself and being able to give that much to others. Even though I don't really like generalization, what I notice is that we tend to be expert at giving love and care to others. But what about you? Do you give that same love, care, attention, presence to others as you give to yourself? And usually the answer is no, because we rely very often, and I would even say too much, on others to fulfill things that we are lacking within ourselves. We tend to rely on other people and external things, material things, position at work, or going up the corporate ladder to fulfill something that we're missing within ourselves. And most of the time, we're trying to find love and happiness outside of ourselves. Having our basic needs of love, because that's who we are as being in this world. We need love and connection. This is how we were made, and that's how it's gonna stay. But without cultivating that love within ourselves, we put so much expectations and pressure onto others to fulfill what we're lacking, straining our relationships, putting too much pressure on our friends, our romantic partner, our colleagues, our parents, because we feel entitled in a way of their love, of their attention, of them healing our inner child wounds. When in reality, yes, the right people will contribute to our joy and happiness and love, but they cannot be the basis of our own well-being, our own perception of ourselves. We cannot base our worth on external element, maybe people or things. We've got to know ourselves. We got to love ourselves in a way that no matter what's going on outside of ourselves, no matter what people say about us, how people treat us, how we are perceived, that we don't let all of that determine our own worth. If you don't love yourself first, you will always give that power to people or to your career advancement or the money in your bank account to tell you and dictate to you how deserving you are. No matter how much you love the other person, whatever type of relationship, friendship, family, romantic, you have to count on yourself to fulfill your own basic needs. You cannot put that pressure onto others. They can contribute, but you have to have that foundation of pure, unconditional love for yourself first. As Esther Perel, the relationship expert, said, relationships are about how can I hold on to me, here, my individuality, while not losing you? And how can I hold on to you while not losing myself? You cannot put your entire sense of self into the hands of others or into things. And there's so many incredible benefits to self-love, including an increased self-esteem, because now your worth and your self-perception doesn't rely or depend on the things around you, on people, whatever they want to say about you. So you feel more secure within yourself, which leads to a better mental health because you have less anxiety, less worries, less resentment and quiet anger within yourself when people are not appreciating you at your worth because you didn't know your own worth and you didn't know how to love yourself first. And self-love also leads to more fulfilling relationships, more loving relationships, because as I always say, it all starts with self. If you're not able to love yourself without condition, how can you love others unconditionally? If you love yourself just when you are fulfilling that role, or you love yourself just because of this trait and this trait but not so much about the rest, is it truly loving yourself, or is it loving yourself when it fits a certain mold, when it fits a certain scenario, which ends up being a very shaky foundation, because the moment that you're not into that mold or into that scenario, or you're not having other people around you actually hyping you up or loving you as you want to be loved, first of all, your self-esteem will lower so much, or if not crush your self-esteem. But at the same time, you will feel so internally fidgety, if I can say, because you will always be on the lookout. You will always try to be connecting with others for not the right reasons in a way. And even though all of that can be unconscious, the result is the same. You will start building bonds with others based on lack. A little bit like trauma bonding, when you connect with the other person because you either find the same lack within the other person, or because you feel that person will fulfill the lack within yourself. And the worst thing in that is, as long as you don't fulfill what is missing within you, you will keep on creating the same scenario over and over and over again with different people. So I do believe that there is an element of self-sufficiency when it comes to self-love, to be able to give to yourself what was not given to you or was not given to you in the past, to see yourself as your child self, to see yourself as this little 6-year-old or 5-year-old or even younger if you want to, who desperately needs love and care and freedom too, freedom to be the whole self, to be the weird self, to be able to not be judged because they felt a certain way about something, or because they expressed themselves in a way that is not common or is not the one that was expected of them. It's seeing within yourself that that child is still inside, to reparent yourself, to nurture yourself, and loving the not so glamorous part about yourself, the ones that you rejected for so long, the one that you tamed down and were ashamed of them being seen, and finally seeing beauty in your flaws. Of course, there's always room to grow, and I will never stop believing in that and saying that, because we are not perfect. There's so many things that we can improve, that we can course correct. We can also see things for a different perspective and then changing how we go about certain things. There's also healing happening through time when we're doing the inner work that helps us put a band-aid on our inner scars and being able to improve and do differently and grow from the trauma or the traumas. But there's also things inside of ourselves that are our attributes, our personality traits, that are not always received the best way by society or by others, even by ourselves, that we have to learn to love. If you're stubborn, you have to see the negative side of being stubborn, but there's also a big positive side about being stubborn. It means that you commit to yourself, you have certain values that you stick to, that you commit to, that you hold your word, that maybe you like doing things a certain way because it will maybe bring more value, or it will be more aesthetically pleasing, or whatever it may be. But remember that everything has two sides, that life is represented by this dichotomy. So every time that you have a positive side, you will have a negative side. and vice versa. So the things in yourself that you're not loving that much and that you have been hating for most of your life, that is a personality trait that is not harming anyone, but you know that is not the easiest or the best. Using an example of being stubborn, you will find negative and positive. Learn to love the positive and try to make sense of the negative. If you see that the negative is actually hurting yourself, stifling your growth, and hurting others, then change it, then improve it, then make it better so it can lift you up and lift others up. But if it's not, then learn to love it, learn to appreciate it, learn to see what it's bringing into your life or what it can bring into your life. Unconditional love for oneself is the foundation of self-love. You've got to love yourself fully and entirely and deeply, no matter what the world is saying about you. But for that, I guess you have to really work on yourself to be able to be a person that you want to love, making sure that you are in full alignment with your values and your purpose, so you know that you're always striving to be the most empowered and healed version of yourself. But also knowing how to love yourself when you're not feeling that good on that day, when you're feeling lazy, when you're feeling tired, when you're feeling like you want to give up sometimes. You also have to love yourself in this moment. Once again, it's about unconditional love. So don't put condition on the way that you love yourself and how much you love yourself. It's about reparenting yourself, just like I said before. So when the child is not feeling good on that day, will a loving parent beat that child down because they feel sad on that day? Would they be like, well, buckle up, kid, we have so many things to do, so you don't have time to be sad, you don't have time to cry, we've got to go, you have to do so much more, even though you tired and sad and depleted, you gotta go. No, a loving and caring parent will never ever say that. So you have to be that parent for yourself, for your inner child, and to be able to once again love yourself unconditionally, and making sure that you're cultivating that kind of love even when facing challenges and setbacks. And of course, you will get into your own way. You will self-doubt. You will have this negative self-talk telling you that, why are you putting yourself first? Who do you think you are? You have to put other people's needs before your own, because otherwise you're not a good person. What are you doing? So obviously that will, especially if your upbringing has pushed you to be a giver, someone who's always there for others, it can be very hard and bring a lot of guilt to start focusing on yourself. But you gotta release that shame, because you do deserve to also have love for yourself. You also deserve to have a positive self-image, not related to your actions or how others perceives you or what you're doing for others. But I love myself because of the type of person I am. I love myself for the characteristic I'm displaying and expressing every single day, even in my worst moments. I love myself for how I'm able to not let myself be defined by my past experiences. I love myself because I choose to not let my heart grow cold because of past traumas. I love myself because that's just a basic need that every single human being deserves, and there's no need for me to be guilty about it. But I guess to get into that point in our growth, there is a need for self-forgiveness before self-love, especially when we have lost that love and care and softness for ourselves. And what I mean by self-forgiveness is that we tend to hold on to past mistakes, and sometimes not necessarily things that we did ourselves, but things that we let others do to us, to have been passive, to have been manipulated, to have been maybe too kind, maybe too soft towards the wrong person. But self-forgiveness is a crucial part of self-love, and it has to be done. You have to remind yourself that you always did your best with what you knew at the time. You've got to let go of past mistakes and embrace self-compassion and self-acceptance. I have a video about self-compassion and also a podcast episode about self-compassion. I will put the links in the description box. You gotta cultivate self-compassion, self-acceptance, and love yourself unconditionally. But for that, forgive yourself first. We're not perfect. We all made mistakes, passive or active mistakes. Just like failure is also how we learn, is also how we grow, is also how we do better the next time. So build self-love as a daily practice. Just like I said at the beginning, I created a free 5-day self-love challenge that you can do. You will have journal prompts, videos, podcast episodes to listen to, music playlists about self-love. You can sign up to this challenge at www.consciousmatters.co. That will get you going on your journey of self-love, of self-care, of self-acceptance, self-trust, all the way to self-empowerment. So 5 little tips to create a life of self-love as its foundation on a daily basis. The first one, the obvious one, positive self-talk. You got to bring positive into your mind, into your heart, into your everyday life, because the world is so focused on the negative, on what is going wrong, what is failing, who's fighting who. Is already a lot of turbulences, a lot of chaos around what is showed through the media, through the news, through the grapevine. Bring positive into your life, into your mind, into what you consume as content. Talk to yourself positively. 2, set boundaries. Manage your energy budget, how much you can give to others while still having enough energy and time for yourself. I have a video about boundaries. You can check it out so you can get into the nitty-gritty of how to set up strong and healthy boundaries for your well-being. 3, prioritize self-care. Once again, another video that I made, I think it was my very first video, where I share more in depth about how to go about it and what true self-care really means. I think I said that often, but it's not only about having all of your candles out, having a nice bath, doing your hair or whatever. The pampering is of course part of self-care, but that is the external part of self-care. Self-care, once again, is inner work. Self-care is about feeding yourself with things that uplift you. Self-care is about tending to your needs the most loving way possible. Self-care is about feeding yourself with positive self-talk. Like I mentioned before, self-care is also about putting in place boundaries. The example that I said before, again, it's about reading a book that will teach you so much about psychology, or a book that is about fiction that makes you feel good within yourself, that makes you escape for a little bit in the best way possible, the most healthiest way possible. It's pretty explicit. It's self-care. It's about caring for yourself, to do things with the intention of protecting, caring, loving yourself. So check out the video, self-care video that I made, so you can have more tangible examples. And the 4th tip to practice self-love on a daily basis is to embrace your strength and your weaknesses. Making sure you don't have this distorted view about yourself, which can be very polarized, is all black or white, when we are all very much complex beings. We are multi-layered, we are multidimensional, we are so much more than just one thing. We are so much more than being able even to fit in one box. So take that weakness and see the positive in it. Take that strength and see how too much of it can become a negative. And finding your balance between all, and loving the good and the bad once again. And I guess self-love, just like self-care, is about self-serving. It's about making sure that your basic needs in your human experience are fulfilled by yourself. Making sure that love and care and acceptance and trust are things that are cultivated within you first. And of course, other people are here to amplify that, but you cannot put the burden on them to be the root cause reason of tending to your needs of love, care, and acceptance. You have to do that for yourself. They are not at the root cause of your worth or your love or your care for yourself. And the funny thing is that we always look at the external to fulfill that, but when we actually fulfill all of that within ourselves, not only are we able to give so much more to others, much more qualitative love and presence and time towards others, to have healthier relationships with others, but at the same time we set the example of how we want others to love us. If you don't love yourself, people might love you, but since it's not reflected from you, it might not be the healthiest love possible for you. It might not be a love that is unconditional, and it might very much be a toxic love. So give that healthy love, that unconditional love, that pure love to yourself first. Self-love is definitely a lifelong journey, and the rewards of it a continued practice, but you can start today. You can start today. Remember that self-love is not selfish. If anything, it's actually generous. Sounds counterintuitive, but it is. If you want to give true, unconditional, and pure love and generous love to others, you have to start with yourself. You have to learn that with yourself first. You have to be able to connect and create bonds with people without hoping they will fulfill something that is lacking or missing within yourself. By putting yourself first and embracing your true worth, you will not only feel more fulfilled and happy, but you'll also be able to show up for others in a more authentic and meaningful way as your whole self. You won't show up in relationships as a half. You won't show up as a burden. You won't show up as the one always putting so much pressure on the relationship because you're expecting the other person to fulfill that for you. And when we think about it, this is completely unfair and actually selfish to do that. The other person already needs to take care of themselves so they can show up the best way possible for you in the relationship. Once again, any type of relationship. So you cannot burden them with now also taking care of your own basic need of having love for your own self. This is not possible. We're supposed to come as one full person to have love for ourselves so we can give love to others. So we have love and we give love. And same, the other person also comes as one who has love for themselves and willing and ready to give healthy love to ourselves. So it's about an exchange. It's about giving and receiving. It's not about I'm a half, you're supposed to fulfill my other half so I can be whole. You cannot depend once again on the external to be able to be whole in this life. People are too fleeting for that. It's not possible. You cannot. And you also owe to yourself to be that whole version of yourself. This is not sustainable. That's too risky of an investment to put your worth and your love and your basic needs into the hands of others, into material things, into careers or whatever. It has to come from within. So take time to nurture and love yourself and watch as your life transforms for the better. You deserve it. No matter what happened in your past, how you were brought up, how much love you were lacking before, how people showed you that you were not deserving, you are worthy, you are deserving of love, you are deserving of fulfilling your own basic need. Share in the comments how you're gonna start loving yourself a little bit more every single day. Once again, you can sign up to the free 5-day self-love challenge on www.consciousmatters.co. It will be a good starting point to get yourself going. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, stay true, keep showing up for yourself, and let your soul lead the way.